Hello. Welcome back. Today we are doing chapter 13 of The Way of the Superior Man. Don't use your family as an excuse. If a man never discovers his deepest purpose, or if he permanently compromises it and uses his family as an excuse for doing so, then his core becomes weakened and he loses depth and presence. His woman loses trust and sexual polarity with him, even though he may be putting much energy into parenting their children and doing the housework. A man should, of course, be a full participant in caring for children and the household. But if he gives up his deepest purpose to do so, ultimately everyone suffers. I have mixed feelings about this chapter, maybe coming from the feminine, but overall I do feel it's very true. We can't abandon the family, but we definitely cannot abandon the mission. The mission is what's most deeply fulfilling, even more so than family. And it doesn't mean we have to, abandon our family and run off and do our own thing. A lot of times we can keep our mission just an hour a day, focusing on what's deeply fulfilling, giving our deepest gifts. Take care of the children and the house as much as you want. Just remember that if you give up your true purpose to do so for too long, you are not really helping anyone. And this book reminds me of the 28 Laws of Attraction, this paragraph reminds me of the book, The 28 Laws of Attraction. I don't remember the author now, but the first law of attraction is to be incredibly selfish. If we're giving up ourselves to help others, we're actually hurting everyone in the process. It's only when we claim what's true to us that we fill ourselves up appropriately. And when we are filled, the amount that we're able to be generous and to give to others is exponentially higher. It's so much more. And it's just not worth it. And actually a lot of times when we're giving from this place of lack, rather from a true place of overflowing, it's not out of love, it's out of fear, right? We're afraid that, people will think poorly of us, or that they will stop loving us if we stop giving. So actually we're giving from a place of fear rather than love. It's when we truly prioritize ourselves, fill ourselves up, and then we overflow, that's when we're truly giving from a place of love and abundance. Parenting children, as well as any responsible commitment in love, requires that you transcend your own personal preferences for the sake of the larger commitment, for the sake of service in love. This is a natural part of being a householder. However, you cannot abnegate your deepest purpose to do so, or else you will feel frustrated, eventually resigning yourself to a lesser life than you know you are capable of living. And even though you may have a wonderful family, if you choose that lesser life over your full potential, that's probably one of the worst punishments. To know that you've wasted your life, or that you have regrets in your life in some way. And if we give up, what's our deepest truth for something else, we are going to have resentment. And resentment is toxic for relationships. So for example, I could have continued to live with my parents and, help with the household. But I know it was holding me back from what my heart truly desired, which was to explore and to try new things and just to see what life had to offer. And if I had chosen to stay, there would be resentment, and I would not be able to love them as fully as I do now. I would not be able to bring the same level of happiness and radiance to our interactions than if I had chosen to take that burden on as my responsibility. So having that clarity of what deepest purpose is, but also not, running away and abandoning them. It's a fine balance, and the chapter goes deeper into how to balance that. This self-resignation will communicate itself to your woman and your children. They will feel your weakness. Your woman will begin to take charge more than she really wants, since you are clearly not capable of taking charge yourself, and someone has to do it. Your children will challenge your capacity to discipline them, since they can feel your own lack of authentic self-discipline. Try as you might, once you have negated your own deep purpose, your household will become a place where everybody tests your capacity to stand your ground, and you will lose. Actually, I quite like this paragraph. And, as a woman, we don't really want to take charge, right? We want a man with a trustable direction that we surrender to. And taking charge is stressful and draining. It puts us into our masculine. But if a guy is out of integrity, right? If you can feel that he's afraid to truly live his purpose, he's making excuses. You can't trust someone like that. And then I, as a woman, will then have to be the one that sets the direction because the man is no longer trustable. What other notes here? It's a question of integrity, right? You trust someone who has integrity, and this isn't necessarily integrity in telling a lie or something, but it's integrity in living true to your deepest core. You may say one thing like, my deepest core is to discover God or something, but the way you live, if that's not true, if that's not aligned, that's out of integrity and that's no longer trustable. And you can really feel when someone has integrity. If they're truly living their core, there's a certain rootedness, stability, reliability about them. And not only that, it's a level of respect. If someone's living aligned with who they are, like shed all their fears, it's very respectable. You can feel their integrity, and the level of respect that comes from your woman and your children are very different based on your level of integrity, how true you're living to your core. Obviously, as a father or a householder, you will want to give your love, skill, energy, and time to your family. It will be your joy, and it will also be a necessity. However, the motive to dedicate time to householding may or may not be symmetrical between partners, and this should be an ongoing discovery for each couple. This motive may change over time for both men and women as their lives grow through different stages. Okay? Family definitely is a necessity. It's not something you should neglect, but your mission is not something you should neglect either. The priority of the feminine, in men and women, is the flow of love in relationship. The priority of the masculine, in men and women, is the mission which leads to freedom. Ultimately, true freedom and true love are the same. However, the journey of the masculine and feminine to this unity of love and freedom is very different. I like that he put this in because there's feminine in men and women, and there's masculine in men and women. And depending on the stage that you're in, which phase you're in, the priorities are different. So the dedication to household will be fluctuating, and is an ongoing discovery for each couple. And I like also that he put this in because the feminine and the masculine are fundamentally opposites. We can't expect a man to be like a woman and a woman to be like a man. If a woman in that certain phase of her life feels deeper fulfillment from householding than the man, then naturally she can take on more of the responsibility, and vice versa. It's not like it has to be 50-50 all the time and everyone puts in their effort. It's more, what's most deeply fulfilling to each partner at that time, and then how can we split that so that love can flow at its maximum. If your woman has a more feminine essence than you, or if she's in a more feminine phase of life than you, then her priority will be the flow of love in her life. Her core will be much more fulfilled by the love she shares with the children than yours will be. You will also feel great fulfillment sharing love with your children. But if you have a masculine core, or if you are in a masculine phase of your life, this fulfillment will not touch the deepest parts in the same way. Even if you love your children every bit as much as your woman does, your relationship with them will only be part of your deepest life purpose. I like this paragraph where it says she's in a more feminine phase of life than you. It talks about the three stages of the feminine and the masculine. And then kind of the second stage is where you're learning about the opposite polarity and you're taking on characteristics of the opposite polarity. And in the third stage, you become this kind of whole being, but you have this preference for one side. And which is why I make these videos, because I feel like I'm in the second stage feminine, where I'm kind of developing my own masculine, and then at the same time, developing my own masculine allows my inner feminine to relax more and be more radiant. And it's and I feel this sometimes, where I feel greater fulfillment from my mission than from relationships. And it's not bad or wrong. It's just part of the phase, or the part of the masculine. And it doesn't mean that we give up relationships, but it just means aligning with what's true, what our deepest core is. When we align our life with our values, that's how we can feel a lot more meaning and fulfillment, rather than kind of living for someone else. Right? When we live true to our own values, that's us crafting our own life that's most deeply meaningful to us. What is your deepest life purpose? For some men, their deepest life purpose is their family. If you are one of these men, then you probably aren't concerned about the issue of whether or not you are using your family as an excuse. Many men, however, regardless of how much they love their family, also feel a deeper calling. If they do not live true to this calling, then their core weakens, even if they genuinely love and desire to serve their family. I agree with this. If I give up my mission, because right now I feel like my mission is what's most deeply fulfilling for me. If I give that up, there's going to be a certain emptiness and weakness inside me. A sadness even. It's like, and I won't be able to bring my best to my relationships. Let's see. Just looking at my notes here. Family definitely is a very noble purpose. But we also have to be real with ourselves, right? What is the deepest calling of our heart? And it's not something we can logically understand or interpret or judge. Our calling, our pull is there, and it's up to us whether we want to live it and how aligned we want to be with it. What do you feel you must accomplish at your deepest truth, or at your deepest level of truth? Could be family, could be something else. When you know your direction and are living it fully, your core is alive and strong. Your children will naturally feel this. They will respond to your clarity and presence differently than they will respond to your ambiguity. An ambiguity that results from having detoured from your deepest purpose because you think it's right or fair that you spend time with them. A short period of time with a father who is absolutely present, full in love, undivided inside, and sure of his mission in life will affect your children much more positively than if they spend lots of time with a father who is ambiguous in his intent and has lost touch with his deepest purpose, no matter how much he loves his children. So this one I think is a little bit controversial, maybe. Um, I think the amount of time spent with children is definitely very important, but of course quality is really important as well. Um, if you're spending a lot of time with your kids, but you're kind of distracted on your phone, or like not able to give them your full presence because you're distracted thinking like, maybe I shouldn't do this, these darn kids are holding me back, the ball and chain, that gives a very different energy than a father who knows his mission, spends his time on his mission, but also carves out time for his children and shows up fully present because he knows that he's on his mission and he can devote himself fully with his children when he's with them. And it's a balance between time and quality, because and it's something that is individual to each man. Children learn most from their parents by osmosis. If their father is subtly weakened and compromised, this will flavor their experience of his love. Just as you did with your father, your children will unconsciously replicate or react to the emotional taste they absorb from you. Your essential emotional tone, at ease in your deepest purpose, or fearful in the ambiguity of your intent, becomes part of your children's home. I really, really like this paragraph. And the biggest question is, how do you want your children to grow up to be? Do you want them to be crippled by fear and neglecting their true purpose? Or, at ease because they know that they're already giving their all each day? And how you act is how they will be, or how they will become influenced. And it brings up an interesting example, controversial example, which is they say that kind of like the nuclear family, having both parents together is generally healthier for the child. But if it were me, I believe that, sometimes divorce is necessary. So, for example, do I want my future children to be stuck in a relationship where they're unhappy or unfulfilled just for the sake of staying together because it might help their children? Definitely not. I want my future children to always create the best life for themselves and not be tied down to, or not force themselves to stay in situations where they're miserable. And in order for me to set an example, I have to embody what I want them to, how I want them to live. And so it comes down to, what are the values you want to impart to your children? Is it fear or is it integrity? And how can I embody those values right now in my own life? If you and your woman both work, it is better to make arrangements with other families to timeshare childcare, or to hire someone to help with your children, than to permanently compromise your deepest purpose and truth because you feel you must do so to spend more time with your children. It is not the amount of time, but the quality of the interaction that most influences a child's growth. Children are exquisitely sensitive to emotional tone. If you are not full in your core, aligned with your deepest purpose, and living a life of authentic commitment, your children will feel it. I think it's an interesting idea, time-sharing childcare. I like it. Right? It's a way to balance mission and devotion to children, because they are both very, very important, but ultimately living with integrity is the most important, because it will have those ripple effects upon everyone around you, including the children. For their sake, your sake, and your woman's sake, discover your deepest purpose, commit yourself completely to its process, and find a way to embrace your family as you do so. Be with your woman and your children without compromise or ambiguity. Don't use your family as an excuse to be less than you can be. With birth control so readily available, children are a choice. If you choose to be a householder and raise children, You are responsible for serving them with as much authentic love as possible, which you can only give if your life is aligned with your deepest purpose. So I think that's kind of like the money line there. You can't be authentic. You can't give authentic love unless you're authentic. And you can't be authentic unless you're living true to your deepest purpose. So if you want to truly love and serve and give, you must be aligned with your deepest truth. Otherwise, all your interactions always have this subtle flavor of fear and resentment associated with it, because you're living from obligation rather than purpose. Don't cheat your family of your fullest core, and don't use them as an excuse to avoid the work it will take to manifest your highest vision. You can give love to your family and engage your life's work if you discipline yourself to act on your deepest desires with priority. Then, when you are with your family, you are with them totally, since there is no chronically unfinished business in your life to distract you, and no inner ambiguity about where you want to be or what you really want to be doing. For me, my favorite line in this paragraph is, don't cheat your family of your fullest core. You might think that you're serving them by crippling yourself, in a sense, but actually you serve them most, when you serve your deepest core. And I'm just looking at my notes here. It's scary, right? It's easy to make excuses. Like I do right now. Right? I'm kind of off from my mission right now because I'm moving houses, and I'm kind of using that as an excuse to not do my mission. It's easy to make excuses because pursuing our true mission at our deepest depth is scary. It's frightening, It's like putting ourselves out in the world completely raw. It's not for the faint of heart. It's only for the person seeking to become the superior man. And despite how scary it is, what's more scary is potentially wasting this life that we have. Right? If we don't pursue what our deepest mission is, even if it means sacrificing some time with family, what other kind of life are we going to live? Just going to live a life where we're kind of perpetually unsatisfied, thinking that there might be more. It's like, that doesn't sound fun either, right? Anyways, that's this chapter. I hope it was helpful. Please leave any comments or questions if you have any, and I'll see you next week.